Hi, today we're going to be learning how to calculate the surface area and volume of square pyramids when missing a side length. Alright, so I'm going to show you two different ways that you can solve for the surface area and volume. If you'd like to skip forward to see how to apply these formulas, then feel free to go ahead. We're going to start off with our surface area. So just like before, I'm going to label all 5 sides of my square pyramid. So we're going to do the bottom, front, back, side, and then the other side. So let's go ahead and start off with our square bottom. So the dimensions of the square are 13 by 13, so we're just going to do 13 times 13 is equal to 169. So remember, when we're solving for a square pyramid, all of these sides, including front, back, left side, right side, are going to be the same. So if I want to solve for one triangle, that means I've already solved for all the other triangles. Just so it's a little bit easier to see, let's go ahead and use this triangle on the right side over here to solve for each of these areas. So we're going to start with 1/2 times our base of the triangle, which is 13, times our height of the triangle. But notice that in this case, we are missing the height of the triangle. We only have the height of the pyramid, but I want this slant height here. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw it out for you. In order to solve for this, notice that if we take the slant height and we take the regular height and we connect these two, it makes a right triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and draw out the right triangle down here a little bit easier for you to see. Here's our right angle, and we know a couple things. We know that this height right here is going to be 9, so I'm just going to label that 9. We know that this slanted part, the slant height, is what we want to solve for. And then we also know the length of this bottom part down here. Now, to figure out what that is, notice that we're going from the center of the square all the way to the edge. So if we know that the full length is 13, this is only half the length. So I want to take half of 13, and that's going to be my 6.5 down here. So that's how you figure out what the base of the triangle is. So just like before, I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem to solve for this missing side length. So I'm going to do across from my right angle is going to be my C, and then we can label these A and B. All right, and then we're going to plug it into a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So my a in this case is 9. So 9 squared plus 6.5 squared is equal to c squared. I know 9 squared is going to get me 81, plus 6.5 squared is going to get me 42.25 is equal to c squared. I want to add these two together to get 123.25. Again, all equal to c squared. And let's take the square root of both sides to get rid of that square. So all I'm left with is c is equal to roughly 11.1. I'm just rounding to the nearest tenth. So what we solved for is the slant height right here, which is the height of this triangle on the side. So I'm just going to go ahead and label this 11.1 feet. And that's the number that we're going to use over here. So 11.1. All right, let's solve for the area of this triangle. That's going to be 72.15. And if one of the triangles is 72.15, that means all of them are. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in. Now let's add up all 5 sides, and we get a total of 457.6, and our units are going to be feet squared. And that's the surface area. Now let's move on to the volume. So for volume, we're always going to start with 1/3 times the area of the bottom or the base, 169, times the height, or however many layers there are. In this case, it's going to be 9. All of this multiplied is going to get me 507, and this is feet cubed. So there's our volume. All right, now let's go ahead and try applying these formulas. So we're going to start off with surface area. I notice that I have 2 variables, b and s. So I'm going to go ahead and label that in our picture over here. So I know that b is for the bases down here. So this is my b, and then my s is going to be the slant height. So here's my slant. I'm going to plug that in. So b squared is going to be 13 squared plus 2 times b times s. So 2 times 13 times S, 11.1. Now let's simplify. So 13 squared is going to get me 169, plus all of this multiplied gets me 288.6. And if I add these two together, this is going to get me 457.6 feet squared as well. So there's our surface area. For the volume, I'm going to start off with 1/3 times b squared, which I know is 13 squared, and then times our h. So in this case, our h is the height of the pyramid, which is going to be 9. So we're going to multiply this by 9. All of this multiplied is going to get me 507 feet cubed as well. All right, let's try one more example with this square pyramid over here. So starting off with our surface area, we're going to label all 5 sides. So I have the bottom of the pyramid. I also have the front, back, side, and side. So let's start off with our square bottom down here. I know dimensions are 6 by 6, so I'm going to do 6 times 6 is equal to 36. For each of these triangular sides, remember if I solve for one, that means I've already solved for all 4 of them. So let's just use this triangle right here. We're going to do 1/2 times the base of the triangle, which is 6, times the height of the triangle, which this time we do have, it's going to be 15. So that slanted part is the height of the triangle. Multiplying all of this together is going to get me 45. If the front is 45, that means all of these other sides are going to be 45 as well. Let's add up everything, and we get a total of 216 inches squared, and that's the surface area. So for the volume, we're going to start with 1/3 times the area of the base or the bottom, which is 36, times that by our height. Now notice in this case, we actually do not have the height of the pyramid. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw in. So starting from the center of the square, I'm going to connect that to the top of my pyramid, draw a line down the slant as well, and then connect these two. So notice that again, it forms this right triangle. I'm going to draw it down here a little bit better for you to see. So here's our right triangle. So I know this length right here, the slant, is going to be 15. I also know that this length down here, remember, is going to be half of whatever the full length is. So half of 6, that's going to get me 3. And then this height right here is what we're trying to find. So let's label our A, B, and C. So across from the right angle is our C. We can say this is A and this is B. So I'm going to plug that in. A squared plus b squared, which is 3, is equal to c squared, which is 15. Let's simplify. So a squared plus 3 squared is going to get me 9, is equal to 15 squared is going to get me 225. I want to get a squared by itself, so let's subtract 9 from both sides. This cancels out, and all I'm left with is a squared is equal to 216. Take the square root of both sides to get a, and we get approximately 14.7, again rounding to the nearest tenth. So that means this height right here of the pyramid is going to be 14.7 inches. So this is the height that I'm going to use right here for the volume. So we're going to multiply this by 14.7. All of this multiplied is going to get me 176.4, and that's inches cubed. And this is our volume. Now let's try applying these formulas. So starting off with surface area, I need to label my B and my S. So here in this case is my B, and then the slanted part right here is going to be my S. Plugging that in is going to get me B squared, which is 6 squared, plus 2 times 6 times the slant, 15. And if I simplify, 6 squared is going to get me 36, plus all of this multiplied is going to get me 180. And adding these two is going to get me 216 inches squared. And that's the surface area. For the volume, we're going to start with 1/3 times our b squared, again, is going to be 6 squared, times h. H in this case was the height of the pyramid, which we solved for. So this is our height. And so we're going to plug in 14.7. All of this multiplied, again, gets me 176.4 inches cubed. And that's how you solve for the surface area and volume of square pyramids when missing a side length. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment with any questions or topics you'd like to see next. Bye!